Hi, I'm Jordan, and I'm here with Run Coach Lindsay. Today, we're here to talk about perfecting your running form with some tips and techniques.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think running form is one of those areas that you can make a lot of improvements with very little effort or like impact. It's just some exercises and things that can really make a positive change.
Or just reducing your chance of getting hurt is another thing that it can do, which can, being healthy, then you can definitely run faster.
For sure.
So first, we can talk about foot strike and kind of myths out there about foot strike or how you're supposed to have the correct foot strike.
Yeah, I think we've seen two like major changes in the discussion of foot strike. So, back in the 90s, it was a lot of heel striking, and a lot of shoes were made to promote heel striking. And then in the mid 2000s, we started to see more of a forefoot strike being encouraged, and really, ideally, neither of those are great options. So the perfect foot strike is actually midfoot. It should be just in front of the heel and just behind the start of the arch. So technically called midfoot, but it's a little bit further back than the actual middle part of your foot. But that's going to be the ideal place to reduce impact, but also give your body the ability to take the impact that it receives and work it up into the legs. So it's not all contained to the foot.
I think one thing we see every year after the Olympics is we get these slow-mo videos of Olympians and say, look, they're hitting on their forefoot.
Yeah.
This is how you're supposed to run.
Good point.
They are sprinting down the finish line at sub 4 minute mile pace. You're out running 10 minutes for your recovery run. Should your should you be striking the same as an Olympian down the finish line as you're doing your recovery run?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think we see a lot of people taking clips out of context and saying like, hey, this is how the pros run. This is how I should run. But if you watch, if you follow pros on Instagram and they post videos of their everyday runs, you'll see it's a midfoot strike when they're doing their recovery runs. Now, maybe workouts, you see a little more forefoot. Mm-hmm. Naturally, your foot strike is going to change with your pace and your effort. So when your stride is shorter, your foot's going to strike farther back. When your stride's longer, it's going to strike farther forward. So it's going to vary. And I think people take, the pros as God, and not all pros have perfect form either. Mm-hmm. we can't worship the ground they walk on any more than we can worship our own.
Yeah. And I think we see it when we're driving around, someone's running and they're like, oh, they read that they're supposed to forefoot strike, and they're talking about what it does, what their form looks like when they do that.
Yeah, I think I think it looks horribly uncomfortable when I watch it. It's just like, oh my gosh. But really, it puts so much stress on the shins and the knee and the patella, so much stress. Your increased chance of stress fractures, tibial and fibula, is like vastly higher when you're forefoot striking. Your chance of runner's knee goes way up. And then even like improperly engaging your core and having pelvic floor issues can start to come up. Low back pain, shoulder pain, headaches, like all of those things can happen when you're forcing your body to forefoot strike. Not to say that some people don't do so naturally, and that's like something they have to work on. But when you're forcing it, then you're causing a whole line of issues up the way.
Yeah, I think the longevity of that runner is probably a little bit lower, and the injury rate's a little higher.
No doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
So another important thing is the cadence, different cadences that people should be running, and just kind of give a breakdown of that for people.
Yeah, cadence is really interesting. You and I are kind of funny examples of that because you have a really slow cadence and I have a really fast cadence. And that tends to be because you have super long legs, so your strides are super long, and I tend to take really short steps. So we're kind of on the vast sides of those spectrums. But, ideally, cadence, you read all these things that say like, oh, your perfect cadence is 180 steps per minute.
Cat sneezing here.
There's a lot of research out there that says that cadence should be like around 180. And the reality is that it is different for every person. Yours is a little too slow. Mine is a little too fast. But depending on your height, your weight, your stride length, like all of those things are going to factor in. And then, of course, your pace. If you are running 10-minute miles, like naturally your cadence is going to be different than if you're running an 8-minute mile. Mm-hmm. So cadence is one of those areas that people, I think, overcomplicate it. So ideally, most people would be in the 160 to 190 range, but it is a wider range than what you read on a lot of forums. And so one of the things that can be a test of positive cadence is if you're experiencing, pain. Like if you're getting hip flexor pain or hamstring pain frequently or glute pain, then your cadence is probably too fast or too slow.
Yeah, I know I should make mine faster. Yeah, I'm definitely on the slower end and stuff, but it has to fit the runner. It has to fit
Yeah.
what they need and what their body's naturally telling them to do. Instead of fight, if you start fighting your natural body mechanics, you're going to lead to injuries.
And I think we've even seen that with you, like when you've tried to change your cadence.
I get hurt right away.
Yeah, you get hurt,
Every
and so your stride is super efficient, and it's long, but it's efficient, and you're not like lagging. So your ground time isn't terrible. So ground contact time is a big part of cadence. Is your foot on the ground for a really long time or not? And that's gonna vary on whether you have a healthy cadence or not.
For sure. Yeah, the next thing you see a lot, I think one that's very noticeable if someone needs to improve their form is their arms. It's kind of like one of those things that people can pick up on right away.
For sure.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts when you see bad arms, or what is good arm motion for running?
Yeah, I would say that women tend to struggle more with poor arm swings. So I think part of it is just the way we're built with, our chest and things. And so you see a lot of times like this side to side swinging. And when you think about the muscles that are being worked and engaged in this motion, it's like significantly more muscles that are being worked. And so your entire core is having to brace for all of this side to side movement. Typically the posture tends to come forward like this, and we tend to get this like hunched over look. And so you'll see it a lot in women. And the reality is that doing the side to side is giving zero momentum to your legs. So there's absolutely no benefit to it. You're literally just like wasting energy. So
I always tell young runners, are you trying to run side to side or forward? So
that's a good point. Yeah, that's so helpful because any energy that you're expending upward and vertical oscillation or side to side in your arm swing is just energy you're not putting towards your stride. So ideally, that arm swing should be forward and back. Your elbow should be at a solid 90-degree angle. You shouldn't be like moving your hand up and down at all. You'll see that sometimes too, like this little arm pump, little 80s workout video. But it should be forward and back, and it should be aligned with your legs. Like you should have your arms in alignment with your legs, trying to get them moving in unison as one big machine.
I always heard put the penny in the pocket.
Penny in the pocket, yeah, penny in the pocket.
So posture and alignment. Anything
that's that you great segue,
notice with that, as far as you talked a little bit about when they go side to side, they're normally hunched over, but any other things?
Yeah, I mean, of course, posture requires a lot of strength training. If you tend to hunch, or you've spent a lot of time on computers, or the young people these days do a lot of phone hunching, it can take some strength to really pull those shoulders back. But naturally, even just thinking upward and keeping the eyes up. A lot of times you'll see runners looking down as they run. And I know in the winter we're going to have to a little bit more, but even just trying to only put the eyes down and keep the chin elevated. A lot of times when we do this, you can even like hear my voice change. We're blocking our airways. We're blocking the chest from being able to open and fully expand. So we're just really reducing the ability to have that healthy breath in. But also when the posture is going to be hunched, we tend to tuck our hips under us, and then we're disengaging the core too. So we want to engage the core in a healthy way. You should feel like you're bracing a little bit here and just keeping it nice and firm and solid as you're taking in and out your breaths and breathing from your belly and not from your chest. So we're thinking like versus. So those are like really big things that you can easily change just through mindfulness of that issue.
So do you want to talk in depth of how you test athletes to figure out their running form to help them perfect their running form?
Yeah. So I myself as an athlete, like I never had horrible form by any means. I had some little tweaks that I had to make, and I did have really poor posture. And so I became really passionate about helping people correct their form and make easy changes to improve efficiency. So We've seen that with one of our athletes, Cody. Like his vertical oscillation was unreal, and then he did a gait analysis.
Well, explain what vertical oscillation is.
Sure. So his vertical oscillation is the energy he was expending upward in every step he took, and his was like 13 or 14 centimeters, which ideally you're about 6 to 8. So his was over double how much energy you want to be using upwards. So he did like the gazelle, like bouncing.
A bouncing runner versus a forward runner.
Yeah. So you want a little bit. If you're not using enough, then you're like likely to trip. But his was really high. And so we did a 3D gait analysis on him, and his efficiency has improved vastly. And then, he got a 5-minute marathon PR this year. So those little tweaks can make huge changes. And so I'm just really passionate about it. And what I do is a very thorough 3D gait analysis. So there's three-dimensional cameras that film a runner, and they're marked up with all these little reflectors, and those cameras are picking up those reflectors and then rendering a 3D video of that runner. And so between my own training and knowledge and the software's findings, we combine that and figure out what areas of a runner's form are the most inefficient that need improvement to help them run faster and stay healthier for longer. So it's a really neat system.
Yeah, I'll put it in the notes so people can schedule an appointment or get more information about it for sure.
Yeah.
So I think so we kind of talked about the different areas that are most noticeable as far as a running form being wrong, but then how to fix some of those things. So start with strength training is one area that can just make every part of your running form a lot better.
Yeah, I think strength training is like the taboo of running. People just don't like to do it, or they don't want to do it. They don't want to take the time to do it. But it is probably one of the most important areas of injury prevention. So mastering strength training can be a huge help, not only to your efficiency and your form, but even just like your fitness. So, excuse me, I think a few of the exercises that are really important are going to be ones that are engaging the muscles that are often ignored when we run. So glute work, any type of glute strength is always helpful. Hamstring strength, a lot of times we're not engaging our hamstrings enough. And then hip flexor core. So your hip flexors and your core are sort of one. Some pelvic floor engagement can be really helpful. But really your core is a whole vast system of muscles. And a lot of times, people will do crunches or like just engaging the frontal core, but we want to engage the entire core, which is going to incorporate the glutes, the hip flexors, the abs, the obliques, all of that.
Yeah, it's everything in the middle that can hold you in the right posture. So
it's literally the core of your whole body.
And you hear it all the time with all athletics. Oh, you got to work on your core. You got to work on your core. But it's so true. Just that 5 minutes a day will make a massive difference. And
no doubt.
Same with the strength training. We always talk about the single leg squats, the single leg stuff. So you want to isolate some of those areas to make sure to find the weakness and work on the weakness. So I mean, you run on one leg. You always have one leg in the air, one leg on the ground. So your weight training should reflect that similar.
100%.
So if you're not doing one leg stuff, then you're going to have one that's weaker that's hurting you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a dominant leg. So being willing to do the strength training, single leg primarily, and engaging the one that is your weaker one. One of my favorite single leg exercises is doing a single leg RDL into a single leg squat. So I would recommend starting it with body weight and then incorporating weight as you get stronger. But it can be tricky, and you have to make sure you do it correctly, because if that knee is wobbling, then you can really cause some other issues. But it's a great exercise, and it definitely helps just incorporate those muscles and get them working in the right way.
Yeah, what will that help fix with your running form?
Yeah, so the single leg RDL is going to engage the hamstring and glute on the backside, but it also is a lot of core engagement when you're leaning forward. So you're getting this really nice movement and engagement of those muscles. And then when you go from that RDL into the single leg squat, then you're engaging the muscles that you're using when you're planting your legs. So when you're in that landing position, and just strengthening those as well. So it's going to feel like a lot of similar muscles, but the squat is going to start to engage more of the quad, whereas the RDL is engaging more of the hamstring. So you're getting the frontal and the backside of that entire leg. Plus, when you're on single leg, you're always engaging your foot, your calf, your ankle, those muscles that are stabilizing your form too.
Yeah, so stretching is another important thing that I think all of us try to skip after our runs, and you just try to get busy, get to your job, work, school, or whatnot. It's hard to remember to stretch, but kind of why is that important to stretch? What are you helping do?
Yeah, so when you stretch after exercising, you're helping repair the muscles properly. So when we work the muscles, we get these little tears in it, and just helping. Foam rolling is a great thing to do as well, but just helping to realign those little tears so that as you rest and sleep that night, they can repair themselves and they come back stronger. So you can kind of think of it like this little thing that tears and tears and tears and tears, and then as it repairs, it gets another layer. And so you're like adding these layers of muscle. So the stretching is going to help realign those tears so that they heal properly. If you're not stretching, you're not foam rolling, then sometimes those tears can heal improperly like this. And then that's when you start to get the pulling and the aching, and then you start to pull on ligaments and tendons. And that's when those little naggy injuries start to come up. And those can take you out for who knows how long, because they can lead to more serious injuries.
Well, and then with your running form, it just makes you compensate and start getting in bad habits as far as, even if your back's tight and then you're not stretching, then you're going to compensate slumping over. And so.
Yeah, you get a lot of those like shoulder pains people will complain of. It's like, well, when was the last time you stretched your low back and stretched your arms out and like stretched your chest? When we're running, a lot of times, we're breathing heavily. And so we're working those chest muscles and we don't even realize it. And obviously we're working the shoulders when we're moving our arms. So I think those get ignored when we're doing our stretches and we focus on legs only. And it's like, well, you should also, get a good shoulder stretch in, like stretch back out your chest, reopen those airways, and that'll help you feel better the next day too, and keep that posture in a healthy state.
Yeah, so kind of the last part is drills. Any drills to recommend to improve running form?
Yeah, so any type of muscle memory drill that's going to engage the muscles that you're using in running can be helpful. So I recommend doing muscle memory drills as part of your warm-up and just training your brain to engage those muscles. So like leaning up against a wall and just lifting your knee up into that stride position, like that early stride position, that's going to engage your core and your hip flexor. Making sure you're doing so with those muscles and not just like lifting it with your hamstring, but getting those warmed up. Things like donkey kicks can help engage the hamstring and glute as well. And just getting those muscles awake and firing before you go out and run can be really helpful, because a lot of times we don't engage those muscles properly because they're not awake. And so just doing those muscle memory exercises, nothing too rigorous or strenuous, but just getting those muscles moving and firing can help improve your form as you go out that day.
Yeah, I think all those basic ones are there for a reason. I think a lot of times we skip them when we're not in the team setting or aspect of it. But it's like your A skips, your B skips. I know even in high school, we always did running form drills where we just run 50 meters and just make sure our arms are going straight and forward. Those things are just good reminders to focus on those things, make those things really important.
Yeah.
I also, when you're focusing on, if you're someone that crosses your arms a lot, you're not going to get it in races and workouts. You're going to be crossing your arms, the first step to do is start working on your arms on your recovery and easy runs. So those are the places to start, so focus on it on your drills, focus on your recovery run, and get in the habit of that, and then it'll start slowly coming into your races and your workouts and stuff. So just having that present mind, okay, on this 3-mile recovery run, I'm going to really focus on arms forward, and get good at that before you really try to take those next steps.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good point, because it is really hard to try and change your form in a workout or a race because you're fatigued. So mastering it, just like a lift, it's just like doing a lift. You start with body weight and then you add the weight. It's going to be the same with the form. Do the exercises on the easy days. Do them on your strides, like when you know you're in control. And then eventually it will work into your workouts and your races naturally as you get stronger, and those exercises become more common to your body.
Yeah, don't start trying to get straight arms only on race day. You'll never get there.
No, it'll be frustrating, and your body's going to be like, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah. Any other tips or tricks for people to help?
Core. Work on the core. That's the best thing you can start with, is really engaging your core. Your core is the center of everything else that happens in your body. So, mastering core strength is great. And if you want to learn more about 3D gait analysis here in Des Moines, Iowa, or when I do pop-ups, then you can find me at Run Coach Lindsay. Shoot me a message. We can get one set up. But That is a really fun system. And if you're really concerned about your form or want to make some serious changes, then I would recommend something a little more thorough that you can't quite get at home.
Awesome. Well, thank you for today talking about some running form, and always reach out with questions, or if you have a specific running form thing you need help with, we'd be more than happy to help send some tips specifically for the thing you're trying to work on.
Yep. Happy running, guys.